right, welcome everybody. Thanks for showing up today for this Civil War dedication. So I'm Mark Adams, the president of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's kind of cool in the air, but I'm wearing sunglasses, so I think this is a good day out here. So again, welcome. I just want to recognize some of the folks here with us today. Of course, we have Senator Nicely and his wife, Cindy, is with us today. She joined us, as well as from the Tennessee Department of Tourism, Commissioner Triplett's here with us. Also Dave Jones from the Tennessee Department of Tourism. And also from the state of Tennessee, Dr. Carol Van West is with us today. And I do want to give a special round of applause to Booger Town Gap, our entertainment today. So thank you, Booger Town Gap, and all of our dignitaries here with us. So we're going to get right to it. I'm going to let Mayor Mike Werner come up and say a few words for us. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. I want to thank everyone for being here today. And you know, the Civil War history is like very important to our economy. Tourism's our only economy, which you all know. And there are a lot of Civil War historian buffs, a lot of people, they'll travel all over. And I think the most amazing fact about Tennessee is every county in the state either had a battle or a scrimmage. And this is very apropos to have this marker here and to make an effort to let people know that there's a lot of history here in Gatlinburg, from the Battle of Berg Hill to like up at the Elm Cave where we had Fort Henry where the chimneys are, and they had a mine of saltpeter up there that was very important for explosives and ammunition. So a lot of history here, but I want to thank the Senator Nicely. Thank you so much for being here. Kevin, Carol Van West, everybody that made this happen. Just really appreciate it. And again, thank our city manager for everything that she does, and the CVB for all their efforts. So thank you so much for being here today. Yes, sir.
You need to come clean. You are a Yankee, right?
Yes, sir.
Illinois. Just want to get this on the record.
You got it.
Okay.
You got it. I'm out here
As quick as you could.
as Brenda needs to say as quick as I can get it.
I just want to also say a few words that this dedication is the culmination of about 6 years worth of work and waiting and getting things approved, other roadblocks. But because of history, a lot of you may know me, I'm an amateur historian and a pseudo-intellectual who just kind of, I like to make up a lot of stories about things, but one story reminds me of how important it is that we do recognize our histories. Is this the story of the college sophomore. She came home for Thanksgiving one year, and she and her mother were preparing a roast. I'm quoting this directly from Reader's Digest, by the way. That they took the roast and they cut it in two and they put it in the pan and started roasting it. And the girl asked, "What, Mom? Why do we do that? Why do we cut it in two?" And she said, "Well, that's the way my mother always did it." So they went to her mother and said, "Well, why do you cut the roast? Does it help it cook or something?" She says, "No, that's the way my mother always did it." So they went to the great-grandmother, who was still alive, and said, "Great-grandma, why do we do this with our roast when we cook it?" She said, "Well, because my pot was too small, and you had to cut it too." So it's 3 generations of women who didn't know why they cut the roast in two, but they did. So knowing where we came from, knowing what our history is, helps us to understand a little bit more about today and about our future also. So I want to thank everybody who's been part of this to finally make this happen. Like I said, it's been about 6 years. It started with the Department of Tourism. It started before the Tennessee Sesquicentennial celebration, and we're finally on the map with the Civil War markers, and it is something I'm very happy and very proud of also. But also very proud to introduce Dr. Carol Van West. He'll come up. He was instrumental with us, especially during the Gatlinburg Bicentennial. He put together a whole survey of Gatlinburg, the older buildings, the places around. That was just absolutely, it taught us a lot about our own places. He is currently the state historian. He's also the co-chair of the Tennessee Civil War Sesquicentennial Committee. He works on a daily basis at the Middle Tennessee State University as a professor of history, courses in architectural history, historic preservation, state and local history. And this guy knows his stuff, okay? So help me to welcome Dr. Carol Van West.
Well, what a glorious day. It really is. It's a beautiful day, and this is a great event. And of course, the people who I knew would be here are here. When y'all gave me the privilege of working with you on your bicentennial 11 years ago, John, I see this as taking 11 years to get done. It was an opportunity that I have cherished ever since, because everyone comes to Gatlinburg, and not everyone knows just how deep the stories are here and what the residents of this community have built over decades, not over 20 years, but decades well into the past. And as we started to uncover those stories, one of the, sort of surprises, but then not a surprise, was the Civil War story. Because here it was both Yankees and rebels. In fact, if you go across the ridge there to White Oak Cemetery, the oldest place in Gatlinburg, you will find burial of both Union and Confederate soldiers. That's not true in a lot of city cemeteries across Tennessee, but it was true here in Gatlinburg. And then, of course, here in the mountains, you have the Cherokee story as well. And that you're talking about a forgotten story in the Civil War. The Cherokees fighting on the behalf of the Confederacy, it's like, what? I thought they had all gone. No, not the Eastern Band, led by William Thomas, who was still here in Thomas's Legion, is such an important story. Well, Gatlinburg has changed. Those places are gone, except for the cemetery, which is a great landmark, I believe. So where to tell the story? So I think we've got the right place, because all of you standing there can just sort of look behind me and see the landscape that was there. I know there's a hotel right there, but you can get the gap. Right here we are on the water. This is what drove everyone together, and this is a perfect place to tell this story, because it's within that ancient landscape, and across that ridge is that cemetery where these veterans are buried and remembered today. So it's just part of that Gatlinburg continuum. I know in 2006, 2007, I was so impressed with how the city believed in itself, how it was willing to pick up and go and just do. So when everything happened at the end of last year, I was one of those watching carefully, because I didn't want to see this place hurt. It was hurt badly. But then, no surprise to me, people like the mayor, people like Cindy Ogle, you guys, y'all just stepped up to the plate in such a way that just made me, once again, proud to have known you and worked with you in the past as we are working here today. So John and Vicki with the CVB, I mean, we've been doing on this stuff for a long time now. So it's a blessed day that we're here, gathered together, remembering the deep roots of a very special place in Tennessee. Thank you.
And now we also have another very special guest here today with us. He represents the 17th District, which is part of Knox County and some of Jefferson County, and he has a personal relationship with these monuments to be here. Senator Frank Niceley.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. This distinguished-looking gentleman up here with the top hat happens to be my great-great-grandfather. His name was David Tennessee Neff. He was from Virginia, and he moved to Danridge, Tennessee. He was a blacksmith, had a large family. The young gentleman with him is his son, James K. Pope, not Neff. James K. Pope Neff, distinguished name. Like I say, he was a blacksmith. He didn't own slaves. He, by all accounts, why did he even care? Why did he go to the Civil War? He wasn't defending the right to keep slaves. But I think so many of us in the South, a very small 3% of the people who fought the South had slaves. They just didn't want anybody telling them what to do. They didn't want the federal government telling them what to do. They believed in a republic. They believed in states' rights. They believed in state sovereignty. And that came back to mind when we were trying to put this sign up. We were going to put this sign up in the national park, up near where the fort was, up near Chimney Rock Campground. Of course, the federal government says, oh, well, you'll have to do this, you'll have to be handicap accessible, we'll have to write the script. And about that time we said, well, thank you very much, we'll just put it down in state property and we won't fool with our federal government. So here it is. And that spirit's still alive in Tennessee. We don't want the federal government telling us what to do. We still believe in states' rights. I'm a Tennessean first, an American second. This man here in the top hat I'll tell you, finish his story just a little bit and I'll sit down. He first went with Thomas's Highland Legion of Indians and Mountaineers. And he's listed in the book Storm on the Mountain. If you haven't read Storm on the Mountain, which tells about this area during the Civil War, you need to read it. Then he was assigned to the 1st Tennessee Cavalry. The Southerners say cavalry with a L before the V. I was a grown man before I knew that cavalry didn't start C-A-V. C-A-F, whatever. I'm still confused. But he surrendered at Vicksburg on July the 4th, I guess, in '63, and they traded for him back. He signed an oath saying, I won't fight again. If you'll let me go, keep my gun, keep my horse, I won't fight again until I'm traded for. Well, before long, he was traded for, and he ended up with Vaughn's cavalry. Was up in Kentucky and was captured again. I don't know if he was just unlucky, but he was old. He was as old as Robert E. Lee. He was born about 18 and 8, so he was 53 years old when the war started. Had no business in the war in the first place, probably. So they sent him to Peapatch Island at Fort Delaware, and only about, they had 20% of the people went in there died, I think. They were pretty rough on him. Not as bad as some of the northern prisons, and not as bad as some of the southern prisons. But anyway, he got out of there eventually, was on his way home to Jefferson County, which is adjoining county, and up here in Greene County at Limestone, they stopped to water their horses and were ambushed. And I've read books, I've read the names of the people that ambushed them. One of them was a Walker, one of them was a Skeen, I can't remember the other name, but they know who did it. They killed James K. Polknox, the young man. Now this was after the war was over by family legends. It was after the war was over. A lot of marauders and bushwhackers. And some places they call the northerners bushwhackers, some places they call the southern bushwhackers. So anyway, it was northern sympathizers that ambushed them. Killed the young man, left the old man for dead. He came to, made it back to Danridge, to his farm. They sent him word and said, we didn't get you killed the first time, but we'll kill you the next time. So he gathered up his daughters, the ones that weren't married, went back to Mount Jackson, Virginia, on his mother-in-law's farm, finished out his life up there. I visited his grave up there. And he left his wife in Danridge to sell the farm, and she was able to sell it to a neighbor for Confederate money. So he had a rough time. But I think it's good that he's here representing just average people that didn't own slaves. They didn't have any business in this war. And it's like, I'll close with this. One old Confederate soldier lay as he was dying, he asked the northern soldier, why did you all come down here? We never would have gone up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nicely. What a great story. This really is truly, as I said earlier, a great dedication today and a great proud moment for Gatlinburg. In addition to Senator Nicely, we also have our Commissioner of Tourism, Kevin Triplett. He's going to come up and say a few words. And first of all, Commissioner Triplett, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everything your department has been doing for us, in the recent months, and we know that you will continue to do in the future and everything that the department has done in the past. So we so much appreciate it, but welcome.
Thank you, Mark. And just to address those notes, we are working with our partners in this county, and we'll continue to do so, and there's more coming. So I just want to assure you and the mayor and city manager and others that. This is probably about the 10th or 12th of these that I have done around the state with Dr. Van West. And it's always hard to follow him, but here I follow Dr. West and Senator Nicely. So that's a hard bill to follow. I will say a couple of things about what we try to promote in the Department of Tourist Development and why this is so fitting to this moment today. And the fact that it's a little cool, but it's such a gorgeous day. Blue skies, you can hear the water running, you see these gorgeous mountains, and just looking around, you see the pillars that we try to promote in the Department of Tourist Development. We promote family, which obviously Gatlinburg is so indicative of for so many things for the family to do here as a family unit. We promote experiences, which this community and this county is full of. We promote scenic beauty, which this county sits in the midst of and this community exemplifies. We promote music. And one of the most well-known songs, not only in this state, but in this country, arguably the world, was written down the street and around the corner. And the fifth thing that is our fifth pillar is history. Especially when you look at our history in East Tennessee, because our East Tennessee history, frankly, the early history, was the early history of our country. So it's our state history, but it's our national history as well. And so if you look at all of those pillars, every one of them are exemplified in droves in the community of Gatlinburg and the county of Sevier. So to be able to celebrate today by cutting the ribbon on these two latest markers, we have a very proud program in the Civil War Trails program. Senator Nicely was talking about his great-great-grandfather growing up in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. And I heard him clarifying with the mayor that he wasn't originally from here. Well, as long as we're confessing, I also grew up in Virginia. And that is a state that is extremely proud of its Civil War history. But if you look at the 5 states that are involved in the Civil War Trails program, no state has done a more expansive job to promote that part of their history than the state of Tennessee. And as the head of the department that runs that, we are extremely proud of that. And we're honored to be here today to celebrate with so many people from this community on such an important part of our history. Thank you.
And with that concludes our program. I do need to make one announcement, though. Please join us inside for a small reception. And by the way, it is Senator Nicely's birthday today. So we have a cake in there for him. We have some refreshments, so please join us inside. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out today. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, we need people up here to cut the ribbon first. Photo op.
Oh, it's good to see you. That is a real pair of shears. That's Cat Walker style. Diamond shears. Name Cat Walker.
Okay, you
That
got
is a
it?
cast walker.
Ready?
That's very good.
Just about.
Ah, there you go. Good job.
Good job.
Cat Walker from Spirit Cat. You do know that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm a South Johnson. This is good. Yeah.
Thank you. That was my